Tom Parry.
Matt Boyle, good day to you, sir.
Good day to you. How are you on this fine morrow?
All right, yeah. Serious business there. I'm ready. I've got my podcasting head on. So, yeah, let's talk some games.
Okay, it's Tom and Matt attack. You can tell there's an air of, impatience in your voice. It's almost as if 90% of what we're going to talk about today, we already talked about quite well.
Well, I'm just hoping it goes well, and maybe the quicker we do it, I don't know, the less chance there is for something to go wrong.
This is true. So, for you, dear listener, last week we recorded this very podcast and got about an hour into it. We had great flow. We were talking about some video games we played.
Oh, it was good. You missed out on a good podcast there, listeners.
Talking about how the Xbox showcase was and the state of play and what we were excited for. And the knob that's currently talking to you forgot to plug in his microphone. So...
it's not the first time something like this has happened.
No, it isn't. I mean, to be fair, I think last time this happened, it was a computer error your side.
Yeah, I mean, we're both guilty of these things, but, accidents happen, mistakes happen. You just move on. And that's what we're doing this week. We'll probably cover some similar ground, but, hey, maybe it'll be twice as good.
I can give you a spoilers. We were like, yeah... It'll be interesting to see the Xbox thing. It wasn't that interesting to see the Xbox thing, it turned out.
Oh, I didn't even watch it.
They said 4 games will be coming to other platforms.
Well, let's cover this quickly then. I want to know. Tell me what happened.
Well, they talked about the future of Xbox.
What is the future of Xbox?
Passionate gamers and everything else. And they said 4 games will be coming to other consoles. Specifically the PlayStation and I believe also the Switch. They have not named what those consoles were. And it's been very interesting.
You mean games, sorry?
Games,
yeah.
Sorry, yes, not consoles.
Yeah.
4 games will be coming to those consoles. They have not specified what they are. I mean, speculation is rampant. People are saying Sea of Thieves, people are saying Starfield, people are even saying Gears of War. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, but Gears of War isn't particularly current, is it? But then again, Gears of War moving to another platform then makes it a big deal. And it's probably good for the franchise.
Yes, I mean...
Yeah.
Let's see, I imagine it'll probably be Starfield. For all intents and purposes, that seems like a game that was very expensive to make.
But it seems like a game they were hedging their bets on as being a console seller,
Yeah, actually, now that I've said that out loud, I do remember something about no Starfield, no Indiana Jones, because those are the 2 that people were speculating on, because obviously Indiana Jones hasn't even come out yet.
I mean, these are recent big Microsoft releases. It would make more sense for it to be something older, I suppose.
I mean, Sea of Thieves seems like an obvious one to me. Like, why wouldn't you want a giant, massively multiplayer...
Cross-platform.
Cross-platform, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
so
you need,
just put
you
it on
need people.
Yeah. Get more people playing Sea of Thieves. That seems like make a lot of sense. Fable's going to remain Microsoft exclusive. That's
you
another.
Have to. Yeah, you have to imagine Fable will stay there. I don't think it'll be new games. I don't think we'll see stuff day and date release. Though it's been very interesting for me. I have been playing a little game called Helldivers 2. I will talk about it in a little bit. Look at that being current with video games. The Phil Spencer was on Twitter going like, I don't understand who this helps, that this is exclusive to PlayStation, and I'm just like, well, it's pretty obvious, Phil. I'm not the head of Xbox, but I imagine it probably helps Sony, the same way that Palworld being exclusive to Xbox helped you a week or 2 ago. I don't understand. I love a good shift in corporate narrative, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, Microsoft are moving towards this ethos of let's make things multi-platform. Yeah.
Yeah, they went away from the whole, for the gamers, and now then it was about, it's the best place for gamers, and now they're like, we like selling games, they should be everywhere, because that'll allow people to buy our console and play video games. Yeah. I don't know. It was also some weird, I don't know if you saw this, there was the guy who is now head of PlayStation while they look for a Jim Ryan replacement had said something to like the Financial Times equivalent in Japan, and essentially had been like, this industry seems incredibly risky, that you spend like hundreds of millions of dollars making games and you're kind of not sure if they're going to hit, and they take an awfully long time, which suggests potentially also changes at PlayStation. He also said that not to expect any big first-party games from Sony even in 2025, which kind of makes sense if you look at, everyone has kind of shipped something now, like Ratchet and Clank, Ghost of Tsushima was the end of the PS4, God of War's come out, Naughty Dog just had the weird thing where they were making that Last of Us online co-op game, and then they strafed away from that and just did Last of Us Part 2 remastered.
I want something new. I don't want a continuation of another franchise so much, like another God of War or similar. I think new things would be great, wouldn't it?
You say that, but then there was also the news this week. I saw people were selling, as they were selling copies of Immortals of Avium,
oh gosh, I forgot about that.
That EA FPS game for £1, because apparently that game cost $125 million to make, and
why were they selling it for £1? Well. They can't make any money. They're just getting rid.
I think need to get rid literally, of stock. Yeah, just fire sale on that game for some reason. I hear it's actually all right as well, which is a shame. But hey, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in video games. If you look at all the layoffs and look at all this kind of stuff bubbling to the surface, it's a very precarious time to be in the industry, I think, and also to be a lover of video games. Because I think
a lover of video games.
A lover of video games. I don't want to slip in a Cornish while I'm saying that, but that's true. No, it's a very weird time for games. On that note, though, why it's also a very good time for games, Tom Parry? Because Helldivers 2 is really fucking good.
Yeah, I've never played Helldivers 1. I know a little bit about Helldivers, though, and to me, I was saying to you before, it looks a lot like Starship Troopers. And you said it also has a flavour of Gears of War Horde mode, so this sounds very appealing.
Right, so the original Helldivers was a twin-stick shooter. It definitely had from what I remember, there's three factions, not fractions, though you can divide it up into three. There were three factions that you were fighting against. You were playing the Helldivers, you were, the Ura Marines from Starship Troopers, and you were fighting against essentially big bugs in the way of Starship Troopers, Terminator robots, and also kind of an advanced alien race, probably like Protoss from StarCraft, from what I remember. There's probably a Warhammer 40k reference that is more fitting, but I can't think of it. It is very much in that like, we're our Marines satirical way. Your characters literally shout for democracy as you fire guns. It's very, very on the nose. It's very good. So that was the original one, and now they've gone like, well, what if we made this a live service third-person shooter?
Okay.
And I'm very glad they did, because I blinked this morning and I was like, oh shit, it's suddenly gone 12. Like, I spent 2 hours playing this game and it felt like 10 minutes. Such was the joy of playing it.
So I guess everything just must feel very nice to play. The shooting, the general control of the character, the gameplay, of course.
I mean, yeah, of course. So what they've done is they've made this a third-person live service game, which I admittedly feels very odd in the wake of everyone saying like, live service games are dead, like 3 weeks ago.
Oh, I can talk about Foamstars.
I did not play that, so I'm very glad you did. Lots of these kinds of games have come out, and everyone's like, oh my god, why are we doing this? Why are we still doing this?
Yeah.
And so far that stuff hasn't really been intrusive. What I've actually enjoyed about it is the stuff you're saying. It is the fact that it's now a third person like Horde mode, like Gears of War, which I very much enjoyed from the 360 era. And they've gone into that with a lot of gusto. There's a lot of... It's just very good mechanic wise. You're always under pressure. You're always staring down the barrel of a gun. You are having to manually reload your gun as you're running around this area, because every bullet in your clip counts, because ammo is very limited.
Has it got that Gears reload at a good a particular time. No, it's not got that.
No, it doesn't have the... Oh, God, I've forgotten what's active reload system.
Yeah.
It's more like, oh my God, how many enemies are still down the barrel of your gun, and how many do you think you're going to take out with this last clip?
Is there an emphasis on cover-based shooting?
No, it isn't even cover-based.
Okay, so that's...
I mean, it is literally you just running around these large arenas, doing either defense missions or extraction missions or capture the flag style things. It's very basic, but you're just staring down the barrel of a load of enemies. At the moment, a lot of the big push narratively in the game and what they're trying to get you to do is fight the Terminator robots, which is kind of interesting because they're just everywhere, just all the time.
So this can change up being a live service game. The types of enemies you're facing up against can be different.
Yes, definitely. Right. And you can go back and forth missions. You can play, I think, up to 4 people in a squad. I've only played 2, and I played some a bit alone, and I'd have to say it's not really the ideal way to play it.
No. This is a full-price game, though, isn't it? This isn't a free-to-play.
This is not a free-to-play game. No. This is, I believe, it's $40 in the US. So, I paid 270 krona for it, I think, for a physical copy.
So that's slightly more risky for the studio publisher to release a game and make people pay for it when it's a live service type title.
Yeah, you would think that, but it today broke the top 20 most concurrent players on Steam, even above Destiny 2.
Wow, must be a good game then.
It is. It's very good.
Will it stand the test of time though, Matt? Will you see yourself getting bored of it at some point?
No, right.
Because they've got to change things up regularly and then keep you on your toes.
They do, and obviously, like right now, it's very early days, right? There's a Battle Pass equivalent, there were free one, and then a more premium one. The premium one doesn't have that many layers to it at the moment, and from what I understand, you can even unlock that by playing for free, the same way you can in Fortnite. It genuinely feels really tight, and the thing that I think will keep me playing it, at least for a couple of weeks, I'll definitely get my money's worth out of it, I think, based on like how much I've enjoyed it so far, is the gameplay always feels really tight. There's never a moment where it lets up, even when you're dominating and even when you're doing well on the lower difficulties. By the time you've like killed one swath of enemies, ha ha, then you'll turn around and be like, oh my God, they're behind me. It's very impactful.
Oh, that sounds intense. Yeah.
Is
it easy to follow the action though? It's not like there's not so much going on. It's difficult to sort of compute what's happening. It feels natural and.
It does. There's generally very, very simple concepts to what you're doing. So, like, one of the missions I've played is like a defense mission where you are at the door to like an air raid shelter, and you're clicking the button to let people run out, and then you know the paths that the enemies are going to come down, and you need to run down there quickly and like defend against them. So I was playing with one guy, and I was taking the high ground, he was taking the low ground. So we'd click the button, take turns doing that, and then switch and go back and forth. It's very frantic. It's very, after you do your mission as well, you also need to extract from the zone. Which then requires you like holding down an area for 2 minutes while more and more waves of enemies.
Do you know what this sounds like to me? Vermintide.
Yeah, a little bit, I guess. I mean, there's a bit of Left 4 Dead in there too, obviously, with like the unrelenting waves of enemies. But it's very, it definitely feels more horde mode, obviously. But like Left 4 Dead or like, no, it wasn't Left 4 Dead. There's another game I've played where you can call in like airstrikes and stuff in this kind of mode, and I wish I could remember what it is, but you do have the ability to change your loadouts, and you kind of, a lot of the mission objectives are actually quite interesting. Like you'll go up to a terminal and need to shut down a system or something like that, and it's all like arrow button prompts, so you're having to quickly like enter like a cheat code to do the things while you're under bullet pressure.
And variety.
You have these orbital things you can call in that are all on a timer. Like I have one that's a turret. There's one that's just like a big ordnance bomb. There's one where your dropship will fly in and like shoot a load of cover fire for you. And all of those are like you need to click L1 in the middle of this really frantic battle and quickly just hammer in a cheat code and then throw a grenade to call it in.
And I take it it's presented in an appealing way. You know, the graphics are good and the menus and everything.
I mean, it looks like a PS5 game. The menus are pretty bare bones, but they serve their purpose.
They're not confusing. It's quite easy to navigate menus and such, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And when you need to do, like, change your loadout or customize your trooper or whatever, you can literally... There's a big ship that you have. You name your big ship as well. Like, you get to... You're on this, like, big Star Cruiser thing, and you get to name it, and all of the way the naming system is, like, it's an adjective or a verb, and then of something.
Oh,
so
right,
my ship is called the Song of Starlight.
Oh, wow.
But they're all, like, really
that's
grandiose names. I just did it because it was SOS. But it
sounds
very cool.
good. It sounds like it fits. Yeah, very good.
It aesthetically is really cool. Like I said, the whole tongue-in-cheek, very Starship Troopers tone as you're like running around, going like emptying a clip into these Terminator robots and going for democracy is very. Very on the nose, but it is very, very fun. And so far,
a glowing review
hasn't worn out its welcome. Yeah, no, it's good. I played it, like I said to you, for 2 hours, and it felt like I played it for 10 minutes. I'm very anxious to go back and play it, and it's been a while since I've had this kind of game want me to do that.
Wonderful.
So.
Well, this is the complete opposite of my experience with Foamstars, I'm sorry to say. Maybe it's just not for me, but... I didn't get that. I deleted it immediately after playing one game. So
wow, one game was enough to make you decide.
Shall we talk about Foamstars?
Yeah, go for it. So how much of a knockoff Splatoon is it? Let's start there.
Exactly. No, it's not about covering an area in your colour. It is about getting kills, and then your objective becomes to kill the character who's got the most kills. After a certain period of time, someone will be designated the star player. Then your objective becomes to kill the star player. The similarities with Splatoon are that in order to move around at a reasonable speed, you need to shoot foam down on the ground and then surf on that foam to move around the area. And you can only surf on your colour foam. You know, the other colour foam slows you down. The foam, sort of, unlike Splatoon, has a volume to it, so you can create mounds of foam. And in the tutorial, it's explained that you might want to use these mounds to get up to higher areas.
Okay.
The majority of the playing field that I played on was quite flat. There were a few sort of tower bits, and maybe that's where you get up to the tower, shoot down on them, get some, some height.
Can you use the foam as cover? Can you like quickly just spray up like a wall of foam in front of you and then fire around it? Or...
Maybe you can. Yes, I think that's probably because it becomes like a solid object. I didn't really use that strategy myself, but there is a lot going on in a match, and it's too much for me. The mounds of foam obviously obscure your view to a point. There's just so much going on, and of course you're restricted to where you can move, because if the enemy's covering everything around you with like pink foam or whatever colour, green foam or whatever it is, then you get a little bit stuck. And they call it you make your opponents chill. You don't kill anyone, you chill them.
Okay, you chill them out of the game.
Yeah, you chill them out. So it's got this kind of cool vibe. The music reminded me of the theme from Ridge Racer Type 4. So that was good. It had that sort of upbeat, very light-hearted, but the gameplay for me was just too frantic to be enjoyable, and I couldn't get a grasp on it. Maybe if I really liked it enough, I could stick it out, but I always think of, I usually know pretty soon if I'm going to be into something. And there was also the whole thing of getting a game took a while, I mean, 2 minutes isn't a long time, but it is a long time when you're waiting for a game to start.
It is a long time, especially as this game is like currently a PlayStation Plus game, so you'd imagine games would be
I was able to
rapid.
wander around the very bare sort of hub area, visiting all the different shops and things. Then you make your way across this whole expanse of nothingness to get to a chopper where you have to go to initiate the game.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the tutorial was very slow, and it was one of those tutorials that would say move the stick forward to move forward. Well done. Oh wow, okay. Press this to shoot. Well done.
Okay. The tutorial for Helldivers is very good in comparison.
Okay, it was infuriating.
It does that stuff, obviously.
But why does a video game need to when the controls aren't that complex need to tell you move the stick to move? It's kind of self-explanatory, isn't it?
I mean, Helldivers assumes that you can move around. It's more like hey, this is the button to reload a gun. This is how you throw a grenade. This is how you do this.
Yeah, so it does all that. You have to reload. Yes. You also have 2 special attacks, which are timed. So you can't just spam them. There's a cooldown time between using them. The particular character I was playing as, I'm thinking maybe they're unique to the characters. I'm not 100% sure about that. But there's one that gives you a bit of height, so it fires you up in the air. There's one that does like a blast radius around you. But yeah, the gameplay's just too chaotic for me. That's what it comes down to. It's not like Splatoon.
No.
It is and it isn't. Yeah.
Okay.
Because Splatoon, you get a satisfaction from covering the arena. It's like, I can see how much area we're covering, and you feel compelled to do that because obviously that's how you win the game in that. But this is about kills and targeting specific player, and I found a lot of the time like I was just wanting to shoot whatever was near me just to get a kill. Yeah. So what happens is when you attack a character to a certain point, deplete all their energy, then you'll get stuck in this ball of foam. And then the enemy needs to slide into you using the surfboard to kill you, finally. Also, your team members, if you're in one of them balls, if they slide into you, they will free you from the ball. So there's an emphasis on working together and protecting the teammates. So I'd say, you might like it. Give it a go. It wasn't for me, and I thought finding a game took too long. The tutorial was infuriating. But, the presentation was fun. The game's got personality. It's light-hearted. I'd be interested to see what you thought of it. It wasn't for me.
I'll tell you what, I will give it a go before we podcast
it's free.
Next week. And I'll
it's
let
free.
You know. Exactly. Like, I already have it. Had it been paid to play, I would be like, maybe not. Maybe
I don't think this is going to attract a huge audience.
No.
It's got the anime aesthetic, so I think it's going to appeal to, say, fans of anime in general, because the characters look appealing. The setup is quite appealing also, and the music and I don't know. I'm just underwhelmed, I suppose, by it.
Yeah, weirdly, it's only a PS4, PS5 game. It isn't even on Steam. So no. I was just trying to see how many concurrent players, because I hadn't heard much about this game. Despite it coming out, like you can kind of glimpse from the front page of most video game websites what is currently the new hot shit when it comes to like these kinds of games, because there's a lot of, if you go on something like Otaku or whatever, or Polygon or any of these websites, there'll usually be like a hey Pal World section, or a hey look at what's going on in Fortnite this month. Okay. And I haven't seen anything. It's Helldivers and Pal World.
No, I don't think it's gonna last. I think this is another one of them games which will come and go, and I don't think it's got a lot of life in it.
Is it going to be like that dodgeball game that EA put out that I've already forgotten the name of?
It's going to be another live service, and the wrestling game, which did look quite appealing, but, like the Battle Royale wrestling game.
Yeah, this is Knockout City, is the one from EA.
Yeah. I think it's going to go that way, and it's a shame because, there are some appealing things about the character design, and they've thought about the concept of the game.
Yeah.
And there
Rumbleverse was the wrestling one.
Yes.
Rumble versus
yes,
wrestling one.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I don't know. There you go. Let's see what you think.
I'll give it a go.
Away.
I will let you know. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So, do you want to speak about a game that I am blown away by, or do you want to speak about a game that you've also played that I'm afraid to tell you is actually not very good?
Okay, let's have a bit of good news now, because Foamstars was sort of average to underwhelming. What's really exciting you, Matt?
Okay, other than Helldivers 2, I've been playing an awful lot of Persona 3 Reload.
Oh, yes, which we talked in depth about on last week's podcast that you'll never hear.
Yes, right. Okay, let me try and recap my feelings. I very much like Persona 3 Reload. It's a game I've spent probably about 20 hours with at this point. I've done the second part of Tartarus, which is the big evil world you're exploring.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who've never played a Persona game, this is a spin-off of the Shin Megami Tensei series from Atlus. Obviously, Persona 4 and Persona 5 are the two that really broke out in the West and were really huge. America was lucky enough to get Persona from the first game on the PlayStation, but in Europe, the first one that we got our hands on was actually Persona 3. Which came out on the PS2. It was at a period I wasn't really playing games. I had seen it and was like, oh, that looks kind of cool. And then Persona 4 Golden came out. I bought a PlayStation Vita to play that. Fell in love with the series, and
even I played and enjoyed Persona 4. I didn't complete it, of course, but I could definitely see the appeal from playing it.
And I would argue Persona 5 even better. I mean, I've played 3 fucking Persona games. I've bought manga that rehashes the story of a game I've already played because I love those characters. I love that world. I think everything about it is very cool. So obviously, when Sega announced that they were re-releasing Persona 3 and that they were going to do it up and give it the Persona 4 Golden treatment and like make sure it played on modern consoles and it looked really nice and everything else, I was really excited because it's a game I've never played. Having played Persona 4 and Persona 5, it's always one I've wanted to do. I bought Persona 3 Portable, which I'll get into the differences in the different versions in a second. And generally, all I'd really seen was this anime cutscene of a guy with blue emo hair picking up a gun as a monster runs towards him, aiming the gun at the side of his head, whispering, Persona, and shooting himself in the head, and a giant monster coming out. I was like, that looks fucking cool. As a 30-something-year-old now, I'm like, okay, this is a little emo. This is a little try hard. It's fine. I'm sure had I played it at the time, I would have fucking adored it, as a lot of my friends who did do.
The opening cutscene in the game is a girl who shoots herself in the head at the beginning. So it's
everyone shoots themselves in the head, but like
but you don't know anything about the game, and you see that, and you think, whoa, this is a bit edgy. This is a bit
I mean,
emo.
It's very early 2000s edgy, is what I will say.
Yeah.
It's very cool though. I've enjoyed playing this game. The combat system, as you would imagine, is very on point. It is the main thing I really like about the Persona games. Even more, I would argue, I'm realising, than the social link stuff, which is kind of the whole point of Persona. Those of you who haven't played the games, generally what happens is you will play through a calendar year. You're always a high school student. You're always making friends and going around. But your main goal is within a month's period, usually before a full moon, you need to explore and clear a dungeon. Mm-hmm. Around the edges of that, obviously, you attend school, you make friends, you build these things called social links with other characters, and in Persona 4 and 5, those were a kind of like either or. It's like, which of these side characters is enough for me to invest my time in, which ones are more interesting, and also by spending time with particular people, you will boost your persona affinity to give you more powerful personas in the different areas that they come in. Think Pokemon. Personas have different types. Unlike Pokemon, you don't capture personas. What you do is you end up winning a battle and you get them, and then they go into the thing. So that's one big part of the game. Why everyone loves this is generally there's these social links that are really engaging. For me, the main draw of it is the combat. It does the whole, weakness and resistance type combat that you would expect from a JRPG, like some enemies are weak to fire, some are resistant to fire. You need to figure out what they are. But generally how Persona's combat rolls is when you exploit a weakness, you gain a turn advantage. And so what this game has actually done is really thought about how 5 kind of perfected that system and gone, actually, there's some stuff we can do to tighten that. As with the previous Persona games, you can always click a button, which in this case is L1, to see the types and be like, oh, right, okay, I remember that this weird hand thing is weak to fire versus anything else. What Persona 3 Reload does is actually takes that a step further and allows you to click the R1 button and cycle through your many personas and just land you on, like, Agi, which is the fire magic, to be like, just use this, you don't have to worry about it, let's speed up this combat, let's make this really fluid and dynamic combat system even more fluid and dynamic. It's very cool. It does a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot of these little tweaks onto the Persona 5's winning formula for combat that make it like, fuck, this is really good. I enjoy fighting things.
Yeah. Is this anything like One Piece Odyssey? Isn't there some sort of similar thing? Is it similar in any respect? Is it sort of like, this is weak against that and that is weak against that? I sort of recall it sounding somewhat similar.
Yes, I mean, this is in a lot of games, right? I would imagine. From what I remember of One Piece Odyssey, I would say One Piece Odyssey draws more on Dragon Quest, which obviously this is riffing off as well.
Yeah.
But like, it's kind of a halfway house between the two systems, I would say. One Piece Odyssey definitely has some of this stuff. Thank you for reminding me that game exists, by the way, because I'm just like, oh, I should play that as well. Fuck. I deleted some stuff off my hard drive to get Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
And Like a Dragon Ishin popped back into my bar. I was like, shit, I never completed Ishin.
Well,
I should go and play Ishin.
One Piece Odyssey was the last RPG game I tried. Yeah, so probably that's why it's in my head. But I do remember this sort of type advantage thing in that as well. But as you say, that's something that's in a lot of JRPGs. Yeah.
It is, especially like your modern era stuff. Anyway, the combat stuff is so engaging that when I have half an hour to kill, I'll just go fight some monsters. I will go grind. This doesn't feel like a chore in this game.
No.
I actually really enjoy the combat. And if anything, when I reach the top, like the way this Tartarus, this system is, like in Persona 5 it was called, they were dungeons and each person had an individual dungeon. In the, oh god, I forgot the name of it. I'm like, oh yeah, massive Persona 5 fan, forgotten the name of the, it's just the metaverse, isn't it? Or something like that.
I don't know.
Anyway, in Persona 4 it's called the Midnight Channel, that I remember. You go into the TV and then you experience these things there. I'm pretty sure it's the metaverse in Persona 5. It's just saying...
Well, it sounds very current. It sounds on the nose,
very
doesn't
current.
it? Yeah.
I'm just going to fact check myself. Persona 5, metaverse. Yeah, this is the thing. Good. Glad. I'm not out of touch. I just completed a third game in the series. I would be like, shit, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, Tartarus is the version of that in these games. You go into it, it is a tower, much like Duraga or any of these other things that riff in traditional JRPGs. I believe there's something similar in the earlier Persona games as well. I haven't played 1 and 2. And you're working your way up it. You will hit these points where before the end of the month you can't really progress anymore. And generally speaking, what that is a permission from the game to do is like, right, you've battled your way through this dungeon, go and spend time with your social links, go study, get up your abilities and your attributes and everything else. I'm like, nah, man, I just want to fucking keep grinding. I like the combat in this game. I want to run around here some more and kill some more monsters. It's very fun, very rewarding game. The thing I will say about it, if you have played Persona 4 and Persona 5, and if they were your entry to the series, like they were for me, you might feel a little bit disappointed, and perhaps this is why I'm running into friction against the social link system, by the fact that I do not think these characters are as fleshed out and unique and inspiring as the ones in later Persona games. They are very much, hey, these are school kids. While obviously, as I've played the game, I've started to get more used to their character traits. They're very broad strokes of like, oh, this is the girl that doesn't have confidence. This is the very intelligent one who's very aloof. Oh, this is the guy that's a bit wacky that no one likes, but he's a bit of fun, so people hang around with him. They're very broad strokes to the characters, and I would argue that once you go even beyond the main cast, the social link stuff isn't as memorable for me as it was in Persona 4 and 5. There's no real character that I've wanted to spend time with other than going, well, this Kenji kid's a bit of a doofus, and his side story about him being in love with the teacher doesn't really do anything for me. but I know that I like using magician personas, and so I need to do this for the sake of my own enjoyment of this game.
I guess that's the danger of going back to a game which, you've improved upon in its subsequent sequels, isn't it? Because you have to remember this is the third entry in the series, and essentially it is the same game as it was then. And they've obviously developed upon that and improved that with 4 and 5, so it's sort of like stepping backwards. And while it has some of those improvements that you see in those later games, essentially the game is older.
Yeah, of course,
and not quite as good, perhaps.
Well, I mean, in that
respect,
aspect,
at least,
I would say, like the characters for me are not as memorable as the ones from Persona 4 and Persona 5. Admittedly, like as I go through this RPG, like I said, I've spent like 20 hours, I think, playing it, getting to where I am. It's, for all intents and purposes, a very long game. I think I'm only 22% of the way through, says PlayStation, so it's probably like a 100-hour game. It is not one I'm going to finish. It's one I'll probably talk about in the background of this podcast for a long time as I tick away at it. But it's very fun. Like I mentioned as well that I have Persona 3 Portable. I never played that. There have been 3 re-releases of this game before. There was the original Persona, there was Persona 3 FES, and then there was Persona 3 Portable. Generally speaking, it's taken the refinements it's made in those games and put them at the base of this one. The only thing that I know people are upset about is there's an epilogue chapter in Persona 3 FES that kind of explains what happens after the end credits roll. That is not in this game, and they've hinted, I think it's called The Last Word or something like that, that it will be a DLC for this, and I hope
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I hope it's included, and I hope if they do a DLC that it is as fun and kind of robust as the one for Persona 5 Tactica. Which like I said to you, I actually kind of prefer to the main game. I think what they do in that DLC is really interesting, and I'm afraid that I actually really enjoyed that weird side scenario that was like a side story to Persona 5 proper more than I enjoyed the plot of the actual game. So let's see what comes of that. And the other thing that is very much annoyed people, and Atlas kind of put their foot in it a little bit with it, was Persona 3 Portable allowed you to play as a male and female protagonists and say, like, well, you're in a school, you can be either of these things, and the romance options changed and everything else. Yeah. They made some really generic statement, I believe, when they were asked, saying, like, oh, well, it would affect the story too much. And they're like, well, it didn't before, so why would it now?
Maybe the game was changed significantly to incorporate that element, whereas here they were using the original Persona 3 as a more strict template.
I haven't run into any instances where I'm just like, oh my god, this would massively affect it.
Okay.
What it would do is require some tweaks, like certain things, like you join the athletics club as one of the side stories, and so you're in the male running team. There, I'm like, okay, but there's a female, like, I can't remember what they're called. In Japanese sports clubs and stuff at school, you have like a team manager. Right. So like someone who wants to do that kind of thing. They, rather than doing the sports, they'll manage the team and make sure all these things.
Okay.
She's a lady. She's a romance option if you're a guy. And I'm like, well, it could just be a friend option if you were the thing. Maybe you volunteer to do that instead. I don't know. I haven't played Portable enough to know what these differences are.
That's it. I guess it comes down to it's a remake of Persona 3, not a remake of Persona 3 Portable.
Yeah, but it does take some of the stuff that's in Portable, some of the links, the social links and stuff that were exclusive to that game.
Okay, it's a little bit more complicated than.
Yeah, it's a bit of an amalgamation of all the remakes so far.
Nice.
Anyway, in a month that is absolutely chock full of JRPGs. I mean, so much so, Tom, that they had to invoke an extra day on February to release Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's coming out on the 29th of February. That's the joke there. So it is what it is. I mean, do I feel guilty that I've bought 2 games instead of the latest Yakuza? Yes, absolutely. I will probably buy it next month.
It's not going anywhere, though, is it?
No, it isn't, and it's also another 80-hour game. And I'm like, fuck, I haven't got time to play all these games.
Yeah.
My backlog. My backlog of Yakuza games these days, Tom. I have Lost Judgment 2, I have Ishin, and now I have, like, a Dragon Age.
Yeah.
We're eating good.
Yeah. I know what it's like, though, when you're a fan of a franchise and a new game comes out in that. You just really want to get it, and I did that with Tekken 8 recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to get Tekken 8. There wasn't any doubt that I wouldn't. I just needed to get it cheap enough, and luckily, I there was an offer on eBay at the time, and I got it for a more reasonable price than the going rate.
I know we talked about it. I'm sorry, before I wrap up Persona 3 talk, just because this feels like the natural place. Did you ever watch that Brian Cox talking about?
Do you know what? Sorry, Matt, I forgot.
Oh, god damn it! It's fine. I'll link it to you afterwards.
You did link it to me, but I didn't.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's just again him just going.
Thank you. Well, you've reminded me now. I will check it out. For
it
sure.
is peak internet. It is.
I've got it on the. Yeah, you sent me it. So.
Watch it afterwards, Tom, and let me know how you think.
Yeah.
Anyway, Persona 3 Reload, very fucking good game. I doubt I'm going to get through it in time for me to play Final Fantasy Rebirth, which is honestly, I'm thinking about it, and the more and more I'm like, I need to buy this the day it comes out, and I need to just dedicate
Or you could just pay the demo and get your fix, and then just get.
No, man, story stuff. I've lived through Final Fantasy VII. I've been on internet forums,
and it's going to be that
oh my
different.
God, Aerith dies. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Because the other one was.
So the other one ends and kind of says, well, this is in conversation and potentially a sequel to the original Final Fantasy VII, and it does stuff that the original didn't do, and it's kind of setting it up to say, actually, this is more a sequel than a remake, even though it is a reimagining. You're going to the same areas and doing a lot of the same fights. It's very cool. I'm very excited for it. I just don't want it spoiled for me also.
So it's sort of like what they did with the Evangelion films, if anyone's familiar with...
yes, it is 100% the Evangelion films, where it starts the same and then it diverges.
Yes, very much so,
Yeah, it is pretty much that, Tom.
I thought it might be. It seems to be a trend with these Japanese sort of franchises to sort of reimagine them this way. Yeah.
I wonder how many of the overlap there is between women who are into Sephiroth and women who are into Gendo. Because the
women into Gendo.
Yes,
really.
There are women into Gendo.
Oh dear, he's not the model husband father figure.
No, but people are attracted to that. I don't know.
Okay,
I'm not
fair enough. Well, let's not get into that. That's another podcast.
Yes. It is. It's not my Final Fantasy VII Evangelion shipping podcast. That's for Patreon subscribers only, for my imaginary Patreon. Yeah. Anyway, I can't say enough. I think if you like Persona 3, Persona 5, if you played Royale, if you played these other games, I think you should definitely check out 3 Reload. I think it's great. I've had a lot of fun with it, and from the sounds of things, I've barely scratched the surface. So look forward to me going still very good as this podcast continues.
Glowing review. Well, if before we move on to the game, I know we both played and we're both going to discuss a little. I'd like to just say a little bit about Tekken 8 because I did touch on it there. Great time with the game so far. It's had some excellent reviews. Worthy of these, yes. Worthy of amazing reviews. It's a very good game. I guess you can't shake that essentially it's just more Tekken. And 7 played very well, and you couldn't necessarily say that this plays better than Tekken 7, I suppose, but it does offer some new things.
Are all our favourites still there? Is there a King? Is there a Yoshimitsu?
Nice.
Which version of Jack are we on?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't played as Jack yet, but I've sampled a few different modes, and what this brings to Tekken that we didn't have previously. Well, we did have a story mode. Tekken 6, I recall, had quite an elaborate story mode. Tekken 7 had approached the story mode in a different way, but it was still quite satisfying. This story mode feels more like what we have now with Mortal Kombat, where we have these quite involved FMV. I say FMV, I'm sure it's probably in-game graphics, but you won't be able to tell necessarily because the graphics are so close to the CG nowadays. Anyway, and then it will seamlessly transition into a fight from the cutscene. And that was something that's been so appealing about these latest Mortal Kombats, and now it's been applied to Tekken, and yeah, it works. It works very well. It creates really dynamic fights where certain sort of scripted events happen within the fight. Like you might not be able to win a particular fight. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Sometimes
okay. It's got those kind of like impossible fight scenarios.
yeah, sometimes there'll be criteria that you actually have to win the fight to progress the story, or there'll be a couple of quick time events here and there. You know, I had to press X to believe in myself at one point.
Really?
Yeah. So it does a lot to involve the player into the story. So you know, I think that's what you want from a story mode. You want it to have an emphasis on story. If you're into Tekken, if you've watched the Brian Cox video and you know everything that's going on in the series up to this point, then it is interesting to see how it plays out, because we've known these characters and this sort of family thing that's going on between Jin and Kazuya and.
You almost said Kiryu then, didn't you? You almost repeated my mistakes of previous podcasts.
Yeah. So, that's good. And then you've got this sort of arcade adventure mode where you make an avatar, you meet people at this arcade, and you do various battles against other avatars within this arcade adventure mode, where it teaches you a little bit more about the systems, which it does have a few new additions to the fighting system. I think it's called Heat, and this is a meter which you have once per round. You activate it by pressing R1. It powers you up for a period of time, and then you can do a special move while you're in Heat mode, but say it only lasts so long, and you only get one per round. It's also got a desperation like move. When your health drops so low, you can then activate with R2 a huge attack that you can't do unless you you have your health depleted. So I'm not doing a great job explaining this, but I think those who have played previous Tekken or Soul Calibur games know what I'm talking about there. What other modes? There's other modes as well. There's individual story modes for characters as well, which have an introduction, which is told through illustrations, but then every character story does have a CG cutscene. So you've got a real incentive to play through each individual character stories, just like in old school Tekken, and you get a nice little character focused end sequence as well.
There's no Gon though, is there? So what are we even doing?
Well, I haven't seen Gon yet. I don't know. He could be in the game for all I know. But Panda's in there, and Kuma, of course. And Kuma's desperation attack is nice and wacky. He gets out his giant fish. He hits them with it, but then the fish transforms into a rocket. Yeah. So I like that. I've always liked that about Tekken. It's got as well as having that family drama, you've got the humor in there as well. And is Alex in there? Not that I've noticed.
God damn it! Like, if I can't have gone, I need Alex.
What's the name of the kangaroo that's also like essentially Alex, but just the kangaroo version? Roger.
Roger the kangaroo. Yeah.
They could be in there, but I mean, the story mode really does focus on Jin. You do get to play some other character briefly from the point that I've played, but it's mostly Jin.
I don't think he's in Tekken 8. I don't think Alex is there.
No. Sad. And then I've been Oscar Kazama is the character that is my sort of main on Tekken. So I've played a lot as her, Jin's sister. Yeah. But yeah, I really got to. I played the Yoshimitsu and King. In the story mode, there is an actual fist of what is it? Iron.
King
Fist
of the
tournament.
Iron Fist.
King of the Iron Fist tournament. Where
you would know this if you'd listened to Brian Cox.
Well, I do know this. I'm just trying to find my words, but you get the opportunity to play as some different characters there. So you're not always playing as Jin, but Jin is obviously the protagonist, and it's about him struggling with his devil gene and controlling it because he subdued it for so long. He can't tap into it to become more powerful because he sort of said no, he doesn't want to go down that path because it's dangerous and it can consume him. Devil man type. It's all devil man really. It all comes back to that. But there's also Azazel, the big enemy from Tekken 6, with this massive looking, oh god, what do you call it? monster character is sort of connected now to the devil gene, and the devils are created to serve Azazel, and there's something going on in the story which I'm sure I'll get that explained as I work through it.
Okay.
There you go. Oh, Tekken 8. Yeah, it looks amazing. That's it. I think that's the main thing about, I suppose, it's the best looking Tekken's ever been. Every platform Tekken's been released on, Namco have improved the visuals to a point where it's now like, well, you can't imagine it getting much better. But that's always video games, isn't it?
It's always video games.
You can't imagine it could be any better. And the characters are sort of like, their skin has like detail on the skin, the blotchiness and things. That's the sort of level of detail we've gone into now with the characters,
Okay.
So there you go.
Good.
Tekken 8. Well worth picking
Tekken
up
8.
if you're a Tekken fan. You won't be disappointed. Even if you've never played Tekken before, well, you're in for a treat, because the same classic, enjoyable Tekken gameplay is present.
I will probably rent it from the library as I did with Street Fighter 6. I probably have a lot good to say about it. I like Tekken.
Who doesn't? I mean, actually, I know I have a friend who doesn't like Tekken, and he likes fighting games. But yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Most people like Tekken.
Most people like Tekken, yeah. This is the thing. It's a question of, like, do you like the early Tekkens because you had a PlayStation 1? Do you like Tekken Tag because you had a PlayStation 2? Like, what? It depends on your entry PlayStation, I think, what love for Tekken you have.
I remember Tekken Tag just being so amazing. Visually. You went from Tekken 3 to Tekken Tag, and it was like mind-blowing at the time.
I just remember sitting with my cousin and playing a load of Tekken 3 and just us trying to unlock stupid characters.
Yeah, even though
stupid engines.
Tekken 3 looked great on the PS1. As far as PS1 games go, that was one of the best looking games probably on the console. But then
100%.
Yeah, Tekken Tag, PS2 launch title. Was it a launch title? A very early PS2 title. Yeah. It's just like, we haven't had this since, really, this type of jump. It's like no. The Dreamcast was at the time. When I first saw Soul Calibur on a Dreamcast, I don't think I'll ever feel like that again about game graphics. But yeah, Tekken 8 does look incredible. Mm-hmm.
It does.
Yeah.
It's been the main thing that I've looked at. Even when I picked up Helldivers yesterday, Tekken 8 was there. I was like, sure.
Yeah.
Tekken instead.
So from a game that looks incredible to a game that looks more in line with the PS4 or earlier, let's talk about Wanted Dead, shall we?
Wanted Dead. Okay.
A game
so
both of us were very interested in playing. Yeah.
Previously on an episode of Tom and Matt Attack, we talked about buying this before Christmas.
And we have talked about the game. You've given listeners your thoughts on the game already. Since then, I've played it and you've completed it. So let's revisit Wanted Dead now. And is it worth it, Matt? Should our listeners... if they're into those sort of third-person action games of the 360 PS3 era like we are, is Wanted Dead the game they've all been looking for?
Right. Wanted Dead is... While you could draw some similarities, you could be like, oh, well, this feels like a B-tier game that should be in line with Tom and Matt's sensibilities. This is, of course, something that they would play. It's trashy enough for it to be featured on this podcast.
It feels like
maybe a hidden gem.
It feels like a budget title.
It feels like a budget PS2 title.
But it feels solid enough, I think, in terms of its gameplay. From what I've played, the gameplay is solid, competent. Bear in mind that this game is developed by ex-Team Ninja employees, and we know that their pedigree is very high. The Ninja Gaiden games are incredibly well made, for the most part.
They are. So generally, this game feels like a game that didn't have a lot of budget, and I think that's perhaps what goes against it. As I talked about, I thought the difficulty was quite frustrating. I thought the whole focus on hand-to-hand combat was kind of difficult to wrap my head around. I thought that while the game clearly wants to be a cover shooter, there wasn't a lot of ammo and everything else. So what happened was, you and I talked about it last week. You are slightly more favourable than I was.
Enjoyed how the gameplay played out. I thought it was clear where the ammo was. Obviously, there was emphasis on picking up ammo, but I didn't have an issue with it, at least for the 45 minutes I played the game. So I can't give it a full opinion of it. But I found transitioning from the cover-based shooting to the sword play actually quite all right, and the tutorial wasn't mind-numbingly long or or infuriating as say the Foamstars one was. So I thought, oh, good first impression of the game. The visuals are nothing to write home about.
No,
but the characters, at least as you're introduced to them in the opening cutscene, are diverse and interesting, and I reasonably good first impression. But I was like, I'm glad I only paid £15 for this game.
Yeah.
It does feel like a budget title, and it's evidenced in things like the way the menus are presented and the overall presentation of the game.
So as the game goes on, that stuff becomes more and more apparent.
Right, yeah.
The stuff that you and I were talking about, I'm like, oh, this is kind of a weird thing of like very, very quirky characters. One of them clearly one of them's deaf. One of them is like a doctor from like an ex-military doctor. One of them is just a weird dude with a scar that's never really explained. And then you have Hannah, the main character, who I've forgotten what her surname is.
It's a funny surname. Like, it's a cool name, isn't it? Let's see. Wanted Dead. I'm looking it up. Carry on, Matt.
Thank you. Yeah, generally, as the game goes on, you realise that all of the look of the game and the dialogue and everything else, the story is so incredibly disjointed.
Hannah Stone.
Stone is the name, yeah. It's like, quick, get into cover, Stone. The game is incredibly disjointed. There's no narrative. It doesn't really make sense, the entire story that they're trying to tell. And yeah, do you want a small spoiler for something that happens at one moment in Wanted Dead? There's a million of these. There's a million like small moments I could tell you. It's like, what the fuck is going on with this game? There's one moment of the game, right, where you were walking through the police headquarters after you beat the first mission, which is like an hour long, which is too fucking long for a mission. It's fine. And she goes, ah! And she falls down onto the floor with her head. And you go into an anime cutscene where there's a woman with blue hair who looks like she's been ripped out of the Studio Trigger Cyberpunk anime, but like with much less budget. And from there, you're like, what the fuck is going on? And from that police station, you directly go to an area where you're eating ramen.
Yeah.
As a crew, and the Herzog, the guy with the scar, the blonde guy, just starts talking about the history of ramen and how it was actually brought to Japan from China. And
this is quirky stuff that would appeal normally.
It is stuff that is just like they've played a Yakuza game and gone like, right, we'll have some of that. Yeah. We'll throw some of that in here. You do karaoke to 99 Luftballons in German at one point.
This sounds wonderful. I'm
fucking all over the place.
I'm on the Wikipedia article now, and it references just exactly what you're talking about here. There are also cutscenes, some of which are done anime style, and mini games such as QuickTime events and elements of rhythm games.
Yeah. Just out of nowhere, just for nothing. Yeah. There's one point you play like I said, they've clearly played the Like a Dragon games and gone like, right, we'll have a bit of that. There's an arcade in the police station for no reason where you can pick up like gacha things from an arcade machine.
Yeah. These things I imagine appeal to you, being a fan of.
Yeah, but they're just done horribly. They don't work properly. They're like the rhythm game is arse. The rhythm game makes you like press 3 buttons at once on different rails in synchronicity. I'm like, this is not how to do a rhythm game. This feels really janky.
Hey, but you played this through to the end.
I did, because I knew if I put it down, I would not start playing it again.
Was it as infuriating as Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance?
Yes.
No.
there are points where I was like, this is fucking Metal Gear again, but not as good. At least with Metal Gear Rising Revengeance.
Which a game you hate.
A game I despise, yet saw through because I wanted to take it back within the 48-hour return window I had from GameStop.
You punished yourself.
I did, and I felt like I did it again, with a worse game.
Wow, worse than Metal Gear.
Yeah, right. So what?
Which is actually a game a lot of people love. You know, it was very well reviewed at the time. You just don't like it.
I don't like it, but honestly, like the combat, at least to Metal Gear, felt intuitive
platinum,
and tight.
Of course. So yes, the combat was going to be good.
It was solid.
Yeah.
This game, again, it feels like a budget version of Rising Revengeance.
But when you expect Team Ninja to be able to deliver solid combat, considering that's the kind of games that they make.
But this is ex-Team Ninja people. This is not like...
It's not the current Team Ninja.
Yeah, the current Team Ninja are still there making the games that Team Ninja makes, though admittedly, not Dead or Alive or Ninja Gaiden. But those games are still tight. Those are still there.
They're making Dead or Alive still. I mean, there hasn't been one for a while, but Team Ninja still make Dead or Alive games.
Yeah, volleyball.
No, and Dead or Alive 6.
Tom, when did Dead or Alive 6 come out?
A while ago, but is it 7? Hang on. How many
Tom,
Dead or Alive
Dead or Alive 6 came out in 2019.
Yeah, not that long ago.
That's 5 years ago, my friend.
They could do with the new one.
Anyways. Yeah. We could do with a new one. I don't think we're ever going to see it.
I'd like to.
I would love a new one. Hey, man, I would get more excited for that than I would for Tekken. Anyway, this is a budget Rising Revengeance. There was a point in time where I was fighting a ninja, right? And I went back through the tutorial. I was like, okay, there's clearly something that's not clicking with me. And I was mistiming the press of the triangle because there's like a counter window where you can parry stuff.
Yeah.
No, not even the parry. There's a gun parry.
Oh yeah.
Where when an enemy flashes red, it's like an instant kill. Like if you don't dodge it, you just get murdered.
Right.
Which infuriated me because sometimes they come from behind you.
That sounds infuriating.
And I would get killed by getting swarmed by like 4 ninjas with knives. And you're trying to fight one, and you're trying to parry, and you're trying to time it so you get like the good parry so you can counter. And then all of a sudden, just from behind you, you hear the sound of like ring or whatever it is, and you get knifed in the back and you die. And you're like, now I need to do this entire 10-minute section all over again. Thanks, game. That happened to me so much on the first like mini boss you encounter, which is a ninja, that the game was like, "Do you want to go down to easy mode?" And I was like, "Actually, you know what, game? Fuck it. Put me on the equivalent of like Stray Dog mode in Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
Put the fucking bunny ears on me. I will play Nico mode, which is the cat girl mode." And you know what? I never would have gotten through this game without playing it. It's fucking really difficult, even on Neko-chan mode.
And could you platinum it, or did you encounter this bug that prevents?
No, They've fixed that bug. You will be happy to know. You can let your friend in CEX know that they have fixed this.
I can confirm he works there. This is a conversation we had in the podcast we recorded last week, which we lost. But there's a guy who works at CEX who was talking about it to me and mentioned this.
You were warned as you purchased it that there was.
I was warned when purchasing this game.
Yeah. So, do you know what, Tom? The warning he should have given you was actually the thing that'll stop you getting platinum is you actually need to complete this game on every single difficulty level.
Okay.
And one of them is called Japanese Hard, which the developers themselves has described as a real challenge. And I'm like, man, if you think the regular difficulty on this mode is something regular people can play, this can go fuck itself. Anyways, it also seems like you need to literally start a fresh save every time you want to play the game. You can't just like New Game Plus or anything.
Right.
Anyway, I played through it. I got to the end. As I played through, like I got better at the counter system. I got better at the gun counters. I got better at doing perfect parries. There was a sense by the 3rd level that I'd really found my groove with this game, and I was like, okay, cool. Let's just play this through.
Promising.
It gets to the point though where from the 3rd level on, you see the same enemies time and time again. They're just different skinned versions. Therefore, you fight
showing its budget route.
Yeah, you fight that same ninja that I fought in the first level. I was like, "Fuck this! I'm up in the difficulty." I think I fought it on the last level at least 10 times in cramped conditions, which is not the best for this game. And the ammo scarcity never gets better. You never get extended mags. You can only hold ever 2 times your clips of the gun. And so there were times where I was running around an arena because there were so many enemies that could instant kill me with a sword or a knife that I needed to keep distance and do some damage before I went in to do melee combat with them. And I was literally just running around the streets in this last area trying to find ammo to try and do this.
I bet it's been a while since you played a game that janky, and that showing its limited budget.
Yeah, no, 100%. But it's also just like, it was more the frustration as it was with Rise and Revengeance. But like, I've just played for 20 minutes between a checkpoint. If I get killed by this one thing, I'm going to have to replay those 20 minutes.
That's a very old school gaming thing, isn't it? It's something that they try and alleviate now, I think, in modern games. This need to replay long sections.
Yeah, but it's very janky also. Yeah. It's just not an enjoyable thing. And like there are certain times, right? I played the first boss of the game is like a giant walking Metal Gear-esque tank thing. It's very clear where the game's influence lies. And it has a move where it fires a cannon and goes in like in a big radial arc.
Yeah.
And it did that and it went through a wall.
Oh.
And I couldn't hit it because it was literally like a quick time event. Not a quick time event. You needed to do like a sword counter.
Oh dear.
To like stab it to activate a cutscene. And I literally couldn't do it. Just stuck behind a wall. And then it would re-up and not move.
Well done for actually persevering with it. So you can talk about it here.
I wanted to talk about it here. I wanted to give this game the coverage that I feel it somewhat deserves for being fucking such a weird game. I'm
going to read to you what's on Wikipedia regarding the game's reception. Also interesting to note is it had a worldwide release on February the 14th, 2023. So this game is now a year old.
A year old.
Yeah. Funny how we talk about it pretty much a year later. Games Radar says it's trashy charm and attempt to subvert game norms, but they felt it to be bogged down by low production values, imbalance, and repetition. I think that's true to what you've said. PC Gamer called it an intentionally messy throwback to the PS3 era, though they felt it was too janky for mainstream gamers, and they said that the niche audience may enjoy it.
I feel that I am that niche audience that is meant to enjoy this game.
You didn't.
I didn't.
Rock Paper Shotgun called it a frustrating mess in almost every regard and said it doesn't know what it wants to be.
100% agree with that. That is... you can put my name next to that, and that would be very apt.
IGN said it's one of the big disappointments of 2023. Shallow combat, data presentation, and poorly balanced difficulty. Okay, Hardcore Gamers, who's the last one now, said it is a modern take on the third-person action games from the early 2000s and overall a punishingly difficult bloodbath that's a joy to play.
I disagree completely.
I guessed you would.
Right, so again, like third stage, middle of the game, I was like, oh, actually, I'm getting kind of into this. This is fine. The fact that the story doesn't make sense, the fact that the main bad guys are just kind of like dropped into the story and they make no sense. They have no background other than they try and kill you in one of the cutscenes, and like why you're versing them doesn't make any sense. But like it jumps all over the place. The story is just really like, if the story had been somewhat consistent, I think I would have enjoyed it more. But it was all over the place, and as the game progresses, you can clearly tell that they were running out of budget. Because there are large swaths of that game that I'm like, I've run down this same street. Just the previous section was the same fucking street. You've just moved some of the cars around. There are cutscenes where Can I also say is probably some of the worst voiceover I've ever heard in a video game. Wow. It doesn't click, and I know it's clearly intentional. Like it's clearly meant to happen. But it just feels weird. It just feels such a strange, weird mix of like, no, we're gonna make this game unapologetically bad to try and get at your heartstrings for those weird B tier Xbox 360 and late PS2 games.
Yeah.
that just doesn't do it.
You know what this
it
says
feels
here?
too contrived.
I'm reading here that the game's graphics, sound and voice acting, combat and overall gameplay design were purposefully done to both mimic and be a love letter to the sixth generation of console gaming and 80s action movies as a whole.
Yeah, but...
Yeah.
And I say this, Garcia fucking Hotspur is very well voice acted. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's incredibly well voice acted.
If it's intending to recreate the average experiences within that demographic, perhaps like... I mean, I know Never Dead got bad reviews. I didn't play through all of Never Dead. But maybe Never Dead is average. Maybe this is,
But from what I saw of Never Dead, the voice actors knew how to fucking
No,
deliver
Never
a
Dead,
basic
actually,
line.
yes, you're right. Never Dead was better than that. I was just trying to think of
Chainsaw,
something it could be trying to emulate, I mean, I think we'd have to go back further than the 360 PS3 to actually work out what kind of game this is trying to ape, so to speak,
I mean, the voice acting levels are honestly as bad as Clock Tower 2 for me.
Right.
Who bleeds yellow blood? It just doesn't.
Resident
do
Evil 1.
Yeah, but like Resident Evil 1, at least Leon would say like Claire with some passion.
No, that's 2.
This is 2. Yeah, they're
Leon's not in Resident Evil 1.
There isn't voice acting in Resident 1, is there?
There is voice acting.
Oh no, there is.
Barry!
Yeah,
Jill Sandwich.
you're right.
Barry and Jill.
Yeah.
You were almost a Jill Sandwich.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But like, I would say that those lines are at least like, while they're delivered really terribly, at least they are like. It feels like at points, right, that Hannah Stone delivers lines like she was given half the line to read, and then they made her read the other half of the line.
It just sounds to me like this game, its budget shows, and to make it an excuse for its low budget, they decided to say that they were trying to recreate the feel of games from a particular era.
I don't doubt that they were trying to do that. Like I think perhaps that's a bit unfair. I just think they didn't have the chops to do it. I think they took the wrong lessons from those games and their odd charm and tried to force it in. They should have made a game. If they were trying to do that, they should have done it earnestly. They're trying to be like, ha 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 ha, look, wink, nudge. And generally what that ends up being is a frustrating thing for players. It just doesn't...
It doesn't look good for the future of the studio. The studio was initially Valhalla Game Studios, and they were merged into... what was it? Salil?
Yeah.
Now, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there. But I will come back to the game and let you know how I feel about it. But I imagine it'll be very similar to what you've described there. I know from how you've talked about this what to expect. Yeah, and it doesn't feel like it's going to be a game I'm going to particularly enjoy, sadly. But...
Yeah, it's a shame. They do have a game in the works called Project Edo.
Right.
Which clearly looks like they're trying to just remake Ninja Gaiden.
Well, it doesn't sound like they're going to get any bigger budget to do it this time either.
Well, they did that Ninjala game. The live service ninja game that came out that looked very much like Splatoon.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I'm scrolling down their website. They also did the Samurai Jack Battle Through Time.
Yes,
game,
but I think that was the studio that Valhalla merged into. They're probably projects that were completed by the studio before maybe Valhalla was merged into them.
Interesting.
I don't know.
They're also working on a game that's supposed to come out this year called Vengeance is Mine, or at least they're publishing that by 110 Industries.
Yeah, they're the publisher, yeah.
Yeah, interesting, okay.
Well...
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
There we go. At least you did it. Well done. Well done for persevering.
Yeah, but it again, playing Helldivers this morning was just like, man, it feels so good to play a video game that's actually good. I'm sorry. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think I could talk more about... I've also been playing Guitar Hero, but I think we've sort of reached the end of the podcast now, haven't we?
We've
maybe
talked for a long while.
We can talk about Guitar Hero next week, because it's a very interesting franchise. I was playing one particular game in the franchise, which is different enough to warrant some discussion.
Okay.
That's Warriors of Rock, which I've played a considerable amount of previously, and I came back and I finished the game off after I haven't playing it for years. And overall the experience is unique and very satisfying. And I'd love to see Guitar Hero come back with a similar sort of design, but I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. Even though there is a guitar being released now, which will be compatible with Rock Band 4, and even the rhythm mode in Fortnite. I've heard.
I might pick that up if that's the case. I might use Fortnite as my rhythm game thing going forward. Who knows?
Yeah, but it's no Warriors of Rock. Now that is something. Yeah, and we've probably talked about it. I bet when I was playing this back when I lived in Denmark that we talked about this. But having actually finished the game now, I think it's worth revisiting. So next time, I'd like to chat a little bit about Guitar Hero.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm sure I'll have more to say about Helldivers 2, perhaps a little bit about Persona. Let's see how it goes. I'll also play Foamstars, and I'll give you my wrap.
Oh yes, I look forward to that. Yeah, that's something to look forward to, listeners. I don't know what I'm saying.
It's okay, don't worry. Neither do I. Most of the time, except for this, Tom Parry. If you've enjoyed this podcast, you can find us in a variety of places. We are at tommatattack.com/podcast. We're on blastprocess.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/tommatattack. On X at TMA Cast. And you can listen to us in a variety of places. The pre-mentioned websites. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, and iTunes. Spotify, Stitcher, fuck. See, I knew as soon as I said I know how to say this, I was going to mess it up at some point. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're on Stitcher. While you're there, give us a cheeky rate and subscribe, let us know you're listening, etc., etc. And if you want to play Helldivers, let me know on one of those platforms and I will add you up as a friend. Tom, as always, pleasure, mate. Let's pod next week. Until then, everybody, be sure to go get Helldivers 2 because it's really fucking good. And game on.
Game on.